You've been told your whole life to save. Save for retirement, save for a rainy day, save so you're not living paycheck to paycheck. But what if that very habit could be making you poor? Imagine this. You stash away money for years. You think you're building security, but when you finally check your balance, you realize something's off. Your money isn't worth as much as it was when you put it in. You're losing purchasing power, even though you did everything right. It sounds counterintuitive, right? But it's happening right now. And the way things are changing, it's not just about being careful anymore. It's about being strategic. Why? Because in today's economy, saving money might actually be hurting you. Let's face it, saving has always been a safety net. The advice is simple. Put away 10%, build an emergency fund, and let your savings grow in a bank account. That was the game plan for decades. But now, that strategy could be outdated. We're living in an era of near-zero interest rates, rampant inflation, and a financial landscape that's constantly shifting. So what's really happening when you put money into savings today? Here's where it gets tricky. Money doesn't just sit still in a savings account. It loses value over time. That's called inflation. And when inflation rises faster than your savings interest rate, your money isn't growing, it's shrinking. Let's start with a simple example. Picture this. You save $10,000 today. You tuck it away in a high-yield savings account, hoping to earn 3% interest a year. Sounds good, right? Well, now consider inflation, which has been hovering around 5% in recent years. In 5 years, you've earned $1,500 in interest, so your balance is now $11,500. But because inflation is running at 5%, that $11,500 doesn't have the same buying power it did 5 years ago. You might be thinking, okay, but I still made a profit. True, but that profit doesn't even keep up with inflation. In real terms, you've lost money. The cost of goods has gone up faster than your savings grew. The hidden risk of saving in today's world. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Saving in a traditional account today means your money is essentially working against you. You might feel secure, but the math is telling you a different story. What's even more bizarre? In the midst of all this, central banks around the world are printing money at an unprecedented rate. They're doing it to stimulate the economy, keep things flowing, and avoid a recession. But what does that mean for your savings? More money in circulation means the value of your existing money declines. It's simple supply and demand. More supply, money, means less value. So while you're saving, the currency itself is getting cheaper. Now let's bring in a little twist of irony. Your hard work to save money actually feeds into this very problem. This is not just some isolated issue affecting a few people. It's happening at a systemic level. Every time you put money into a savings account, you're part of a broader trend of relying on an outdated financial system. You're trusting a system that's no longer equipped to protect the value of your money in the long term. It gets worse when you zoom out and consider the global economy. Countries around the world are caught in a cycle of debt. The U.S. alone has trillions in national debt, and every dollar of debt has to be serviced, meaning interest payments pile up. But instead of shrinking debt, the solution seems to always involve printing more money, and this drives inflation even higher. Your savings, no matter how diligent, are caught in the middle of this messy, dangerous system. Now let's take a look at what you could be doing with that money. It's not just about stashing it away in a bank. There are alternatives, investments that outpace inflation, real estate, stocks, but there's risk involved. And let's be clear, we're not saying you should throw caution to the wind, but ignoring the changing dynamics of money in favor of safe savings accounts is like choosing to walk on a treadmill that's slowly losing its power. The financial world has moved on, but the advice we've been given hasn't caught up. So why are we still doing it this way? It's time to take a step back. Look at how we got here. Look at the choices you have now. The system hasn't just changed in your favor, it's shifted in ways you might not even realize, and that's the most uncomfortable part of this conversation. Let's lay out some cold, hard numbers. If you save $10,000 in a typical savings account with a 0.5% interest rate, you'll earn $50 in a year. Sounds okay, right? But here's the catch. If inflation is at 3%, the cost of goods has gone up by $300. So in real terms, you've lost $250.
It gets even worse when you look at the past few decades. In the 1980s, inflation averaged 3.5%. Your savings account might have kept pace with that. But in today's environment, inflation is often higher, and the returns on savings are dropping lower. The real value of your savings is evaporating, and the math doesn't lie. This isn't just a personal finance issue, it's a structural issue. Saving money in traditional forms today means accepting that your wealth is losing value year after year. So here's the ultimate irony. In an economy that values growth and progress, saving for a future that's uncertain is now working against you. The safe option has become the risky one. The system designed to protect your money has made you more vulnerable to its collapse, and most people don't even see it coming. It's not about being reckless with your money, it's about making a shift, adjusting your expectations, because right now, if you're saving the way you've always had, you're doing the exact opposite of what you think you're doing. But what other choice do we have? You might feel paralyzed, you might feel frustrated, but here's the truth. That frustration could be the key to breaking free. It's time to rethink what it means to save.
So now you know the uncomfortable truth. Saving money in traditional ways isn't the safe haven it used to be. But if saving isn't the answer, what is? The answer isn't simple. It requires a shift in mindset. It requires understanding the tools of the modern financial world. Investing isn't just for the wealthy. It's something you need to consider, whether you're building wealth or just trying to protect what you've worked for. You've probably heard that stocks are risky, that real estate can be volatile. But let's break down why these alternatives have become essential, not just for the wealthy, but for anyone trying to stay ahead. Take stocks. Sure, the market crashes, but historically, stocks have outpaced inflation. In fact, if you'd invested $10,000 in the S&P 500 over the past 50 years, you'd have more than $500,000 today. That's the power of compound growth and a simple, easy-to-understand strategy for growing wealth. But it's not without risk. The market fluctuates, it's unpredictable. So why does it still work in your favor? Because over time, it grows. The longer you hold, the more likely you are to see that growth outpace inflation. And if you're doing this alongside a traditional savings account, you're hedging your bets, stacking the odds in your favor. The key is strategy. Know where your money's going. Don't just save, put it to work. Now, let's talk about the cost of doing nothing. That's where things get even more concerning, because inaction in today's world isn't just about losing the opportunity to make money, it's about falling behind. The global economy is changing rapidly, and those who aren't adjusting are at a serious disadvantage. Here's an example. Let's say you're 30 years old and you're still holding on to that $10,000 in a low-interest savings account. Over 20 years, you've earned about $1,000 in interest. But let's say inflation averaged 3% per year during that time. That $10,000 you saved has lost about 60% of its purchasing power. Your $10,000 is now more like $4,000 in real terms. Meanwhile, someone who took that $10,000 and invested it in stocks, real estate, or even newer alternatives like cryptocurrency has outpaced inflation and might now have $50,000 or more. The problem is, we don't have the luxury of time to make up for lost ground. Each year that you let your money sit idly, it's costing you. When you zoom out, this issue isn't just personal, it's global. Inflation is rising at a rate that's higher than wages in many parts of the world. This means people are actually falling further behind, even if they're working harder and saving more. Why? Because when inflation eats away at the value of money faster than wages can grow, the middle class is squeezed. More people are relying on savings for their future, but that safety net is full of holes. It's the silent crisis affecting millions. And here's the kicker. The global financial system is designed to benefit those who can take on risk: investors, corporations, the wealthy. If you're just saving, you're locked out of this system. This isn't an exaggeration. The playing field is tilted. The rich get richer not because they have better savings accounts, but because they have access to better investment opportunities. It's easy to buy into the myth that putting money in a savings account is the secure option, but in today's world, that's the risk. The real security comes from having your money work for you. Think of it like this. Your savings account is the financial equivalent of putting your money in a drawer and hoping it doesn't get stolen. Meanwhile, others are out there growing their wealth using investment vehicles like stocks, real estate, and even newer alternatives like cryptocurrency. It's a harsh reality, but the safe way of doing things, the way we've all been taught, is starting to feel more like the risky move. The security you think you're building is just the illusion of security. What's at stake for you? But let's bring it back to you. Why does this matter? Why should you care about all this? Because the choices you make with your money now will have huge consequences in 5, 10, or 20 years. And it's not just about what you can accumulate, it's about staying ahead. The real threat isn't losing money, it's falling behind while everyone else moves forward. The truth is, you're fighting an uphill battle, but you can't ignore it anymore. If you want to build wealth, if you want to protect your future, you have to rethink your strategy. But here's the thing. Even with all this information, there's no clear one-size-fits-all answer. What's the right investment? How much risk should you take? These are questions no one can answer for you. In fact, this is where the real tension lies. No matter how much you learn about the system, there's always an element of uncertainty. Some investments will work, some won't. Some days will be great, some will feel like losses. And in that uncertainty, the question becomes, are you willing to risk being left behind for the comfort of security? Or are you ready to take action, challenge the system, and build your wealth? The truth? Only you can decide. But in a world where saving no longer guarantees security, the time to act is now.